The Chargers were 4-5 through 10 weeks in 2023. With half a minute left, down 3 points in Green Bay with no timeouts remaining, they needed roughly 35 yards to set up a game-tying field goal. One game back of a wildcard spot, with a tough schedule remaining, this game could make or break their season. Justin Herbert takes the snap, steps up in the pocket, and throws a dart down the right sideline.
Johnston can't pull it in!
Quentin Johnston ran a simple fade, and with no help over the top, he came wide open, nothing but green grass ahead. Herbert threw him a perfect ball. At worst, he sets up the game-tying field goal if he makes this catch. At best, he scores the game-winning touchdown, but he doesn't catch the ball. Chargers lose, Chargers go 1-6 the rest of the way, Chargers fire head coach Brandon Staley. This was the fulcrum of their season, and a microcosm of Johnston's brutal rookie campaign. Mike Williams went down in week 3, making Johnston the clear wide receiver 2 in the offense. Even then, the first-round pick mustered just 431 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns across a full season of play. The 2023 NFL Draft does not look great in retrospect. When I do my MLB Draft retrospectives, I wait 10 years before evaluating their careers. The NFL is obviously very different. Just 2.5 years since this draft, we can pretty much tell whether each pick worked out. Devon Witherspoon, Will Anderson, Christian Gonzalez, good players. Anthony Richardson, Emmanuel Forbes, Deontay Banks, busts. After just 11 weeks, Johnston looked like the latter. They called him a certified bust, put him on top 5 lists for 2023 draft busts, and made countless memes about how bad he was. I'm here to tell you why that reputation is finally starting to fade. To be a bust, a player has to display some type of potential to get picked highly in the first place. So what made Johnston so coveted as a draft prospect? Well, he broke out for 1,000 yards as the Horned Frogs' leading wideout his junior year. He went for 163 and a touchdown in the college football semifinals against Michigan, leading TCU as close as they'll ever come to winning it all. Johnston was measured at 6'4", weighed 208 pounds, and ran a 4.52 at the combine. He was explosive, grading out fantastically in both the broad and vertical jumps. The biggest measurable downside was his terrible 3-cone drill. On the surface, this seemed like a big, vertical contested catcher, someone in the vein of a DK Metcalf. But the film tells a different story. He definitely bullied some smaller college DBs, but he caught a lot of his contested catches with his chest. Johnston struggled to high point the ball, and it caused him to miss out on a lot of potential big plays. He did most of his best work after the catch with the ball already in his hands. His signature move was spinning out of tackles after hitches and curls and picking up another 15 yards. His best play of the season came in that Michigan game, when he took a drag route 75 yards to the house. Before the draft, Johnston appeared on NFL Films' Hey Rookie. The show is about incoming NFL draft prospects trying to raise their stock. I was an intern for NFL Films, and I worked on that show. Johnston, Jalen Hyatt, and Joey Porter Jr. were the 3 players covered in that season. Hyatt and Porter seemed like good players and good dudes, but pouring through hours and hours of behind-the-scenes footage, Johnston's mindfulness really stuck out to me. While running routes with other receivers, he wasn't just thinking about his own footwork. He was observing the others and giving them pointers based on what he saw. He seems like someone who would make a high-level coach one day, if he chose to go that route. Despite concerns about his route tree and his hands, when draft day rolled around, the Chargers picked him ahead of Zay Flowers and Jordan Addison. He was the second receiver off the board, only behind Jackson Smith and Jigba. I have to imagine that his interviews really did elevate him on draft boards. Maybe that suit too. If you ask me, the wideouts are the most interesting position group in this first round. All 4 of the receivers taken went back to back. 2 of these guys made instant impacts as rookies. Since JSN's modest rookie season as a third option, he's looking like a top 5 receiver in the league. Johnston is the red-headed stepchild of this class. It almost feels like the Chargers themselves were deceived by Johnston's size. He didn't even really play big in college, and he definitely didn't project to play big in the NFL. But when Mike Williams got hurt, they inserted Johnston directly into his X-receiver role. The results are ugly. He averaged 25 yards per game, which ranks 13th of the 14 rookie receivers who received at least 50 targets in 2023. He also ranks 13th in catches per target and 12th in yards per target, but the most obvious shortcoming to fans were his hands. Johnston is only credited with 3 drops on the year, which doesn't seem like a big deal for someone with over 60 targets. The problem is that drops only count on uncontested catches, and Johnston's contested catch rate was well below average. A lot of his targets came on plays like these, where he just couldn't come back to the ball and make the play. NFL DBs were also a lot less likely to let him slip out of the curl and pick up the extra yardage. Most of his catches were short of the sticks, he didn't get open much, and he couldn't play physically, so it's totally understandable why fans turn on him so quickly. In many ways, losing that game in Green Bay was the nail in the coffin for his rookie campaign. If most fans never saw him in a Chargers uniform again, they'd probably be happy. But Johnston is still here, and as it turns out, he's become a pretty solid receiver, on pace for nearly 1,000 yards halfway through his 3rd season. Look, I'm not here to argue that he was the correct pick. The Chargers probably would have been better off with Flowers or Addison, but I am fascinated with how Johnston has salvaged his career and built himself into an important piece of this offense. Johnston's misuse as a rookie completely de-emphasized his best traits, especially early in the season, but he still put some good plays on film. When he caught drags or screens, he tended to pick up good yards after the catch. He drew a lot of pass interference flags, including 3 in a single game against the Lions. Again, I'm not saying he was good. He should have come down with some of these catches, and he had a bad year straight up. But there were flashes, and based on what I knew about his intelligence and work ethic, I saw him as someone who could adapt once the adversity hit. Jim Harbaugh took over the Chargers in 2024, and he immediately voiced his confidence in Johnston.
But then combining that speed and agility, getting that strength component to go along with it, I mean, he's going to be a problem.
It makes sense when you remember what Johnston did to his Michigan defense a year earlier. This wasn't just Harbaugh voicing support for a struggling young player. He meant what he said, and his coaching staff genuinely put Johnston in a better spot to succeed in 2024. With Keenan Allen gone, rookie Ladd McConkey and Johnston were Herbert's top 2 receiver options, and offensive coordinator Greg Roman used them well. They stopped using Johnston as an X receiver, using him more in the slot and giving him more screens and quick passes. McConkey was the best route runner on the team and also made a ton of contested catches. Despite not being a true X himself, his breakout allowed Johnston to do a lot more work underneath. He doubled his yards after the catch total in year 2, and he increased his yak per reception by 1.6 yards. He also improved his contested catch rate and his pass catching tendencies in general. Johnston scored touchdowns in 3 straight weeks after returning from injury in week 9. He'd found the end zone 6 times in 8 games. His numbers didn't jump off the page, but progress was definitely being made. That was until week 12. It was a Monday night game, national TV against the Ravens. 5 targets, 0 catches, 0 yards, and multiple drops. Chargers lose. Fans immediately started dunking on him again. The incremental improvement throughout the year had largely flown under the radar. When it came time for the national audience to see what he could do, he was still seen as a clown to the NFL world. After that week, Johnston picked up the pieces, averaging 60 yards per game, scoring 2 more touchdowns, and catching 67% of his targets. He capped off the year with a 13-catch, 186-yard performance against the Raiders. Through all of that noise, he was still improving. He became a decent wide receiver 2 on a good team 1 season after a brutal rookie year. But that sophomore season still ended on a sour note. He got absolutely shut down in the playoffs. The Texans' defense suffocated the Chargers in the wildcard round. Johnston certainly isn't the only player to blame, with Herbert playing maybe the worst game of his life. Like, what the hell was he thinking here? But Johnston was targeted 5 times in the game and didn't catch a single pass. This debacle caused fans to once again evaluate this team's offense. Was Johnston good enough to be the wide receiver 2? Did the team need a true X receiver to open up the field? Was Johnston even part of this organization's future? When the Chargers signed Allen back in August, August, those questions became even more pertinent. A week later, Johnston left the preseason game with a concussion. His job was on the line. Public opinion was overwhelmingly negative. If he didn't take the leap this year, he was out of rope with the Chargers. He responded with the month of his life. Through 4 weeks, Johnston was third in the NFL with 337 receiving yards and tied for third with 4 receiving touchdowns. He had a big-time 2-touchdown game in Sao Paulo in the Chargers' upset of the Chiefs Week 1. 3 catches for 71 yards and a touchdown Week 2. 89 yards against the Broncos' elite defense in Week 3. 8 catches, nearly 100 yards, and another touchdown against the Giants Week 4. He became the second Chargers player with 70 or more receiving yards in the first 4 games of a season, joining Hall of Fame tight end Antonio Gates. A lot of struggling young players aren't able to handle the noise. He's gotten a lot of shit from fans, fantasy managers, gamblers, and trolls, and he's handled his business like a true professional while improving every step of the way. When asked about how the early scrutiny affected his play, he gave a very mature and stoic answer. "I don't really talk about it to nobody. I feel like I just have to step up, deal with it on my own, get better each year. So that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm continuing to do. I feel like my therapist is the field, so that's where I take everything." Johnston's story is one of incremental growth, lesson learning, setbacks, hard work, and eventual improvement. He isn't looking for shortcuts to greatness. He's cooled down a bit as the 2025 season has gone on, including a catchless game against the Vikings, a fumble against the Commanders, and a 2-drop game against the Colts. He still isn't a finished product or a true wide receiver 1. This Chargers team is very strong and has a deep array of weapons. McConkey, Allen, rookie tight end Aronde Gadsden, and Johnston. They're all good players, and they're all producing at similar levels. I'm not exactly sure where Johnston will end up as a player. For all I know, September was the peak of his career, and he'll never recreate that again. But based on his work ethic and his mentality, I could see further improvement in the future. Even if he stays as an 800-yard wide receiver 3 talent, he ended up a lot better than most fans thought he'd be after his rookie season. The most comparable receiving numbers from that draft class came from Jonathan Mingo, Trey Palmer, Marvin Mims, and Hyatt. Those first 2 guys haven't played a game this year. Hyatt might as well be at home too. Mims is a great special teamer, but not much of a receiver. Johnston is still here. He's improved every year since joining this league, and he's in a big role on a good offense. This guy is finally seen as a serious NFL player rather than a punchline, all thanks to hard and smart work. I couldn't be happier for him, and I can't wait to see what he does next.